Hello everybody, I'm Art, and welcome to another episode of Minecraft Enigmatica 2 Expert. Today we are going to continue on and finish off actually additions. And all that we have left is setting up the canola press and actually automating that whole fuel source. And looking in the book, you can see that it's a pretty simple looking chain. All we need to do at this point is make the canola press, make the fermenting barrel, and then make the upgraded seeds. That said, this is actually not the world's easiest thing to automate because it requires using the atomic reconstructor and an empower at its various stages, as well as tossing things into liquid. The whole gimmick of canola is to turn it into an oil that you can burn as fuel, starting with basic canola oil and moving up the chain as it upgrades to refined and crystallized oil, and then finally empowered oil. So I guess what we first need to do is go set up a canola farm somewhere, because while I have a small amount coming in from my main farm, we need way more than that. Alright, so I created a very small scale farm that looks similar to my mystical agriculture farm, with the growth accelerators on the bottom and a ring of sprinklers on the outside, and it seems to be going pretty fast. I'm using the Axie Editions farmer because it seemed appropriate, since this is all actually Edition stuff anyhow. It seems to mostly keep up with the plants, but I might have to swap it out. I don't know yet. This is what I'm working with for now. I may need to make this bigger. But now we have a source of canola. The next step is to actually make the canola press, which turns it into oil that we can consume. And as you can tell, this is something we could have done a long time ago. But this will at least let us start creating power to run the farmer itself instead of draining the small battery that I have with me. And this is just the first step in the process. Okay, so now I've got the canola press in there, making oil from the canola and pumping it into a compression dynamo for power. There are, however, a couple problems. One, this press does not go very fast. As you can see, it's not creating a surplus of supply, and the dynamo is eating it up faster than we're generating it, although it is generated at 720 RF-a-tech, which is not bad. Also possibly is about the limit of this dynamo at its current upgrade level. This dynamo is also just a temporary measure just to keep the whole thing running for now. So the next step would be to add more presses, or look into using a squeezer from Forestry, or using an industrial squeezer from Immersive Engineering, although I really don't want to do this one, but this one's probably the fastest. I'm going to go make a Forestry squeezer real fast to see if this at least generates it faster. I don't actually know that it does. Okay, yeah, this is pretty embarrassingly conclusive. If we look inside the squeezer, if you count it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 5 to 6 seconds, and the canola press, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it seems pretty obvious which one's faster. So I'm going to go make a couple more canola presses to help speed up the process. I do need to be clear, I don't actually know what the ratio of all of these machines are involved in this process. So this is the first time I've actually done the canola oil process at all. So I'm not familiar with the numbers. I've been trying to avoid looking up spoilers online or processes, just because I want to figure this out, honestly. It's a neat little puzzle. Okay, so 4 canola presses seems to be keeping the generator full now, so we've got a decent supply going. I have no idea if my farm is keeping up with it, but it's time to move on to the next step, because now that we're making canola oil, well, the next step is making refined canola oil, and you do that with the next quest in the step, the fermenting barrel. And the fermenting barrel is pretty easy to make. It's just really basic materials that we're well past also. And to be clear, the recipe for refined oil doesn't actually list it in the menu here. It's just the only thing this barrel can do is it takes canola oil and converts it into refined canola oil. Other machines can do it as well, including the fractioning still from thermal expansion and the still from Forestry. But like I said, I don't know how any of this actually works. I don't know if it's actually faster, but I'm going to go hook one up and we'll see how it works. Okay, so I tried about 3 barrels per press, and that seemed to be too fast. I removed 2 of the barrels, and now it seems to be moving at mostly parity, so I don't know what the actual production rate is, but 10 to 4 seems to be working about right. I didn't promise I was good at math, folks. But now we're producing off of refined oil, which is not really producing any extra power off the generator we're using because I haven't upgraded it at all. And I'm not going to, because we have other plans. But for reference, in the compression dynamo, each bucket generates about 80,000 RF for normal canola oil. Refined canola oil, however, generates about 250,000 RF. So that's already a pretty significant gain for very little work. However, this is where things get a bit more complicated, because the next step is where we start involving the seeds to make the fuel. Specifically, the crystallized canola seed, which requires passing normal canola seeds through an atomic reconstructor. And then once you've done that, you just throw it straight into the fuel to create a new type. So I guess let me try to figure out a way that's reasonable to do this. Okay, so the first step is done. I basically replicated the other atomic reconstructor automated bit that I used for my AE2 system to do this. It's feeding the seeds into that precision dropper, which is then kicking out in front of the atomic reconstructor. It's sitting on top of an entity detector set to detect items, and that is set to an inverted signal to tell the atomic reconstructor when stuff is sitting on top of it. When it converts it, they go into the item collector, which feeds it back over into my drawers over here. I have it round robining off of my farm to put seeds into this other drawer right here that has the downgrade set into it so it can only hold a single stack. I don't want it to burn through all of our seeds. We do need seeds further into this process for the last step. But now we need to actually do something with these upgraded seeds. We need to dump them in fluid to upgrade that to the next stage. Alright, so I've got the next step done of dunking it in the fluid, and I've got to say I actually looked this up because this is an area where I'm not all that familiar with, which is working with fluids in the world. And if you start looking for advice how to do this, everybody is going to point you to integrated dynamics, and I've used integrated dynamics in the past and it's fine. It's just horrifyingly complicated. But given that this is built in Actually Additions, I just did a stop and wait a minute moment and just realized there's got to be an easier way that's mostly innate to Actually Additions, and I did some more digging, and it turns out it uses a lot of tools that I already am familiar with, as well as one that I had never thought to use before, which unfortunately is not from Actually Additions itself, but makes this whole process easier. So if we start with this build, if you look at the bottom, there's the fluid placer from Actually Additions that is feeding the refined canola oil up into the block above it. If we come up here, you can see that there is a fluid collector to collect the finalized fluid. The process, however, from this involves these scanners from Extra Utils 2, which I have never used before, but have been around for a while. And these scan the block directly in front of them for whatever it is you need it to match. If you right click on it, you can set it to the block that's currently there, and it tells you what level it's currently generating or whether it's there or not. So in this case, this one's looking for refined canola oil, and when it gets this, it pulses out a redstone signal, which goes up to this automatic precision dropper that has crystallized canola seeds in front of it, inside of it. And I had to toggle this with the redstone torches to put it on pulse, because if it's on deactivated, it just kicks them out all the time, kind of like how I had the end of flame set up. It's not doing this right now because it has already pulsed when this came out. I put the seeds in after the fact because I don't want this actually running right now. So once that drops it in here, for example, we can take this out. Alright, now that I've cleaned up my mess and backed up a little bit, we can take it out, and you watch it refill, change, and get pulled back out, and it just constantly cycles through this for as many seeds as I have, or if I screwed up. But that's what this other scanner back here is for, is to detect the crystallized oil, and when that does, it sends a redstone signal via this conduit over to the fluid collector, which is also set to pulse, to pull the fluid back in. Because this has no filter on it at all, so it just pulls whatever's in front of it, so you have to have some other way of detecting that it's the right one. Anyhow, now we have the means to turn to the next phase. That said, we want it to stay in here. This actually isn't the final build, and like I said, I can't take credit for it. I will provide a link to where I got this from, because where that piece of stone is where we're putting another scanner and another dropper to drop the next upgrade in on top of that. Because the very last step is the ultimate canola, the empowered canola seed, which I'm pretty sure you can get from the name. You get it by passing it through the empowerer, and it takes these crystallized seeds and uses 4 normal seeds to create it, which means not only do I have to actually integrate an empower into this room, which won't be too bad, I also have to split off the inventory stacks because we need crystallized seeds for this, as well as to generate the fluid over there, and we need normal seeds for that, as well as the empowerer. So, this part's going to get a little messy, probably. Well, I did promise it would be ugly. It's the most simplest form of automation you can do. It's just Ender IO cable sitting on top of it, piping seeds into it from over here, and piping in those crystallized seeds back from my atomic reconstructor. So, nothing special. They do fire fairly quickly. This does operate faster than I was expecting, so that's nice. Now we need to pipe these into that tower over there, and we're almost done. Alright, and now I've got this finally wired up with one more scanner and one more precision dropper. It works the same way. It's just halted right now because I'm holding the seed that popped out. But if I throw this back in, it should jumpstart. Yep, there it goes. And now we're generating fuel, and it's slowly filling up this tank down here. So that brings us to the next question. What are we going to do with the fuel? Because, well, I've got the compression dynamo feeding off the refined fuel still, just to keep the plant running. What's the next actual step? Well, that, my friends, is back to our old friend, the Endurnium gas turbine from Advanced Generators. Because if you look in here, the empowered fuel is actually the highest rated fuel that it can take. It's actually 50% more power than the ethylene generator we're currently using. Now, I don't know if we're generating fuel fast enough to actually keep it powered, but my base is nowhere near pegged for its power use anyways. But I think we're going to slap one down in this room regardless, just because, and then we can see what it's actually using for its fuel. Alright folks, and Canolatron here is here to remind you that Advanced Generators do not need to be in a rectangle. There might be multi-block, but they just have to be connected to each other. So, stop making rectangles, guys. As we can see here now, it's completely full up on fuel from what it's been generating over time, and it's generating 80,000 a tick. This is where I need to learn to actually read how the fuel is actually used, because even though this is saying it's generating 120 versus 80, that's actually how much power it generates total per bucket, not how much the generator is kicking out. So it's just more fuel efficient, which is still fine. This is another 80,000 generator. One of the other things that I did was remove the actually additions farmer because it's way too slow, and I replaced it with a cyclic one, which is actually keeping up with production. Well, now seeing as though we've finished out the last of the quest, let's grab the chest from this to go get the nice green checkbox on actually addition to finish out this chapter. I'm going to grab the chests from the other chapters that I've finished as well for now, and let's open up the 6 of them to see how much garbage I get. Soulstone, that's possibly useful, or possibly broken if this is one of those things that causes you to lose your inventory. I don't know. I don't generally trust any of these things. A chisel that I definitely don't need. Food. Why is this an uncommon? More food that we just got, and a revolver that I don't need because I guarantee you my bow does way more damage. So, as always, I'm Ard, and this is Canolatron. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.